Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's just get into it today. I know how we do at this point, so here we go. Today's video, I struggle with the title, but I think I'm gonna call it "Is Moderate a Dirty Word?" And so let's just get into it. I feel that one of the best ways to divide us, um, and it's been very, very successful. And I think our political system in America, where we basically only have like two major parties, plays on that and makes it easier to do so. But I feel they try to oversimplify issues into one choice versus another, right? Super, super conservative or super, super liberal, and there's really like no space in between. And we've gotten to a point where all the space in the middle is looked at negatively. And we've kind of been forced to like pick a tribe and kind of go from one extreme to the next. And I think if we took a step backwards and like applied this to like everyday life, we would realize that like life exists in the gray areas, right? There are very, very, very few things on this earth that are just purely black and white issues, right or wrong issues, this or that issues. And it even comes to like people, right? You know what I'm saying? Everyone is just not 100% good and everyone is just not 100% bad. Like there is space in the middle for most things in life, but I feel like a way to divide us is to suggest that there is no gray area and to force people to kind of pick a team that is like the most closely linked to their side. And I think if we just take this to political issues, like let's talk about the environment, right? Um, there is space between somebody that like doesn't value the environment. It's like forget it, like let's drill baby drill, let's do all the diesel fuels. And there's a somewhat of an economic argument, right? It's easier at this point in time because we have the existing infrastructure, there's a whole jobs and billion-dollar economy linked to it. A lot of countries GDP and livelihood is literally linked to it. So there is a reason that we're in fossil fuels. Plus, it's easier at this moment to upscale and all those things. But then there's like the other extreme, like of environmental protection, that's like, hey, let's get rid of everything that is a potential pollutant. You know what I'm saying? Let's like Green New Deal everything, get rid of the industry in its totality and, what they call like super tree huggers and get rid of a lot of the conveniences that we have today to favor, for the environment. And what I implore you to think about is like most people are in the middle of that, right? Whether you lean a little bit more on environmental protection and a little bit more in like the convenience of fossil fuels. But what I think we can all agree on is that like we don't like the effects of climate change, right? I feel like a lot of the rural areas that are impacted, a lot that don't believe in climate change or whatever, are like really adversely impacted. And my question in that is, who cares what's at fault? We need to do something about it, right? Whether you believe climate change is brought about by human activity or you believe it's natural, the end game is that something must be done. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, or we're just going to continue getting these things. You know what I'm saying? So I think we are so caught up on the who is responsible and all that stuff, as opposed to saying like, hey, we have a problem and we have to solve it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, and we have deduced that human intervention can help the problem. So regardless of if you believe if human intervention caused it, what we do know is that human intervention can help resolve it. So I feel like we've split the environmental issue about that. We've made it right versus left. You either are completely against environmental protections or like overly for it. And I was like, we mostly exist in the middle, right? Like we can believe that there's some advantages to fossil fuels and there should be a transition out of them. But I feel like let's concentrate on what we agree on as opposed to what we don't. We can do the same thing with the gun legislation, everything of that nature. You have people like, we should have tanks. You know what I'm saying? I was like walking to everyone that can buy it should be able to have one, right? And then we have people like we shouldn't have any weapons of war at all. Isn't there some space in between? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, maybe we just regulate some of the guns we have and have some of that space in between. But no. And that's even if the majority of the country is for that regulation. Like most gun owners want regulation. Most gun owners want those background checks, right? But like you have another side that has like sort of taken the voice of gun advocacy and is like going to the utmost extremes to the point where like most Americans and most actual gun owners don't even agree with it. But yet that's the policy. Yet that's what they advocate. In every instance, you can't even talk about gun legislation if there's a massacre, right? You know what I'm saying? We have gotten to that point where it's like the polarization of both sides prevent even the most common sense agreed upon solutions. So I just ask you to think about like in these issues, a lot of the issues that come up from everything, even like abortion, right? They try to polarize it and say that, some people that believe in, pro-choice want to kill babies. Like, they say post-birth abortions, that's called murder. No one wants that ever. Like, no one's ever advocated for that. So it's like, but that is how they have to vilify the other side in order to galvanize support for their side, which is equally as extreme, which like they don't even want contraception. They don't want even condoms. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like most people meet in the middle of all of the issues that we disagree on. And what they've done is concentrated on the things that we don't agree on to get us angry, right? To agitate us and to get into our polls and to actually not talk about the things that we actually agree upon, which is what government is supposed to do, right? Like, macro issue, democracy requires compromise. Imagine that. A democracy requires compromise. So if you're going into a scenario where you're thinking it's like my way or the highway, I don't care about what other people think or feel, then you really don't want a democracy. You don't. Like, our particular form of government has like made rules to even make sure that minority voices are heard with things such as the filibuster, which means you have to like pass a certain threshold of people in the majority in order to get things heard. Why do we do that? We do that so that like people just can't steamroll, I'm saying, and do these polarized things and keep things going. Like, we want to make sure that all people feel like there's a participation, and hopefully like through both sides of, can come together and come and find some sort of compromise. And we can even see how compromise is like looked badly upon, but with immigration, right? There's some people that say like we shouldn't have any immigrants at all, and there's some people that say like immigration, we need more, like it's what makes this country great, right? But there should be a meeting in the middle. And compromises looked as bad. Like, look, there was a deal made, from some of the most conservatives, and it actually was viewed objectively as a conservative bill. So like a lot of liberals were upset by it, but they killed the bill. Who did? Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they wanted to keep the issue alive. It mattered more to have controversy than to actually solve the problem, right? So they found themselves to benefit more from people being angry about it and having no solution than to actually come in with a compromise that actually leaned more conservative. This is the danger of it, because it tries to promote inaction. And so at the end of the day, that is like the overall goal. They want you to be angry and frustrated so that they feel as though like the more frustrated you are that nothing happens, the more polarized you'll get, the more you won't be willing to compromise, the more you'll be willing just to sweep in with whatever thing that you ideologically believe in with the most. And so I just ask like that we just don't be used as tools. Let's all do what I think is the easier thing, was to actually say like, hey, we all kind of agree about this stuff, and let's accomplish that. We have enough to do about to disagree about the things that we don't disagree upon, but like, let's realize that most life is not either black or white, but it's gray. And to try and work on those things and not be a tool of division that results in things not getting done and exactly what they want, which is inactivity, so they can come in and sweep in with more drastic, polarized results that really don't reflect the diversity that democracy requires. And so until next time, hopefully we promoted some thought and some conversation.